Excellent. And okay, so we are live at 6:01. I'm calling the meeting to order. Ruth, you good on everybody? Okay.
Yep, all good. Thank you.
All right, everybody should have received the agenda in advance. Are there any additions, corrections, edits, deletions? All of the above? Any of the above? Hearing none, I need a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Essex County make a motion.
I heard Essex. Second,
Windsor County will second it.
Windsor. Last call for any additions or deletions or whatever. Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Anybody opposed, nay? Okay, we're good there. Secretary's report.
Eddie,
Oh, yes,
do you call to order at a certain time?
6:01.
Thank you so much.
Nope, no problem at all. I do it in red, so on my paper it stands out to me. All right, secretary's report was emailed to everybody, plus it was also in the board packet as well. Are there any comments or corrections to the secretary's report?
Essex County make a motion to accept.
Essex,
Moyle will second.
Memorial. Again, any last minute corrections or deletions or edits? I see that. You have a message, Ruth. Okay, hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Nay? Okay, treasurer's report. I saw you. Where'd you go? There you are, Stephen. I swear to God, it's so funny
I'm
watching these
here.
boxes so they shift around. There you go. It's all yours.
All right, thanks, Patty, and hello, everybody. So you should have received this morning the report of both April and May. I'm not going to go over April because it's a lot of the same information. There wasn't very much change in TMA revenue, and I think it's going to just be a not wasted time, but I'm going to go through May. If anybody has any questions about April, I'm happy to dive into it. So looking at May, which is I believe the third page down, cash balance as of May is $1.57 million. That would be the operating account with all of the current liabilities taken out of it. There was transactions out of the the reserve accounts for the truck loan and the storage container. That is the notes payable for Ford and the Elan Financial. Moving down to the next page, there's a report that Patty was kind enough to provide for me. So thank you, Patty. Current year-to-date actual membership revenue was static from the April financials, $2.6 million versus a total budget of 2.3. The increase over our budget was $283,000, so we did really well for the year. I think it's the same thing I've said for the last few months. Obviously, no more new TMA money. Total revenue, we're currently at $3.4 million to a budget of 3.8. Under budget by 440,000. This is due to the trail project grant revenue. That's going to be offset by expenses, so it's just noise, but it may or may not reach the total budget by the end of the year. But again, every expense dollar that comes through is increasing that revenue. So let's see, going down to expenses. Expenses are mostly tracking the budget, with the only outlier, of course, being the trail grant project. We're tracking over the prior year $289,000 higher. Overall expenses are 1.9 million versus our total budget of 3.4, and expenses should come in or below budget depending on how that trail project expense line falls. Anybody have any questions?
A lot of that is the Green Mountain National Forest, just
Yes.
so folks know. So that's why he says it's noise, because it comes in and goes out. And it just depends, because it changes when it comes in and goes out. It depends on projects.
Anybody have questions for Stephen? And all the April data is there too, but like I said, Everything's pretty much, in May.
We still
only
feeling
TMA
good? We still feeling good about the other organizations getting their budget passed through? Everything from the National Forest to the
So
state?
far,
else?
yeah, so far, the state is too. They have not had anything come down to hit them as far as RTP grants or anything. They're keeping us updated weekly, and so far, so good.
Cool.
There's a lot of people pushing that forward too, from all angles of different levels of snowmobile associations, so it's
Yeah,
getting a lot of
and just,
exposure.
and just, politically and on the ground, not even snowmobilers, but Patty's right. We heard a lot about that at Congress too, but it's, so far, so good.
Good question, Mike. Anybody else have a question for Stephen about the report? Pretty
Essex
cut and
will
dry.
Essex will make a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
Thank you, John.
Second,
Lamoille will second.
last call for any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed, nay? Okay, that carries. All right, unfinished business. Waterbury Bridge, Mr. Halpin, anything updates?
Yeah, well, I've actually had some conversations with the engineer. They're still working on their numbers for the whole, really just the beginning of this month when we finally got talking that he decided to kind of said he admitted it was on his back burner, but he's moving it forward. And so I'm still waiting on some room for him. I actually got a couple contractors that are submitting questions to me. One of the ones that I think maybe Cindy and Matt can help me out with over time here is one of the big questions where are we under any regulations? I assume we are. I know I've heard we are as far as dates, timelines on when any work could be done on, deconstruction of the bridge, if so is decided on. I know there was some Army Corps engineer dates and stuff that we need to stick to. And so any feedback that you could send me that I might be able to send over to the contractors that are working. And I'm also working on with the Waterbury Club, getting them some good pictures, and they're just looking for exact measurements on some things. But it's at least a little movement now from people, as slow as it may be. But I feel
That's
like
good.
over summer we'll have some maybe some guidelines and maybe even get some prices towards fall. Obviously, nothing will happen this year, but that's where it's at.
So Cindy, you
Okay,
got that for you and Matt? Okay.
Yeah, I just made a note, Jeff. So it's Army Corps of Engineers, but also the state stream alteration folks. That we do have some dates specific to when we can work near and in streams. Like October 1st rings a bell with me, but we can get you those dates.
Yeah,
I made a note to get that to you, so you've got it in your back pocket. Just so everybody knows, Matt. Oh, here comes Julianne, Ruth. Just so everybody knows, Matt's son Carson has his 8th grade graduation in an air conditioned gymnasium tonight. And so anyway, that's why he's not here.
He'd rather
He'd
be
probably
here,
prefer
believe
here.
He would much rather be here.
Okay, so Cindy, you took that as an action item to get Jeff that stuff.
Yeah, we'll get him those dates. Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be other things. I know Nathan, Nate's been busy too from Romer's, but I know we're working on some pictures and some stuff and possibly even a site visit here in the next month or two with at least one of the hoping both of the contractors. But yeah, at this point, I'm just happy if we get one price on it. I'd love to get two. I was shooting for three, but it's just everybody's really busy. And when you tell them you're not sure, when it's going to be done or if it's going to be done, they tend to put it way back on their burner as far as getting anything done. So we're working on it.
Appreciate the
Yeah.
update, and I know you keep
Well,
poking
the
at them,
other
so-
thing to remember too is that the feds are under the gun, the state's under the gun for grants. And so, yeah, they're working on like what they have now and what they have money for and trying to get that done before funding if it will get cut off at all. And so I can imagine that if you're not giving them an end date, they're like, yeah.
And
Well,
Scott's been wonderful. We haven't been invoiced yet, so He really has, and he doesn't want to, for the light work, at some point, it's going to cost us some money somewhere, whether it's decommissioning or getting better numbers on repairing. But at least if we get a decommissioning number, then we can start. It just doesn't happen quickly.
All right, so I know Ruth caught that as an action item, and Cindy got it as well. Great. All right, policy updates, back to Stephen. Did I lose him? Everybody, he's got his camera off. Stephen, it's up to you now for the financials, the policy update, the old language versus new language. And so this is one, before you start, this is one item. If you guys don't want to get into a debate tonight, you can say, this is one of those you can actually lay on the table. Okay, and we can pull it off next month and vote on it if you need the month to vote to go back to your counties. It's an option. I just want to put that out to you. If we get going too much, somebody can make that motion, is what I'm saying. Okay, Stephen, explain what it is.
Yeah, I'm going to share my screen just so we can see it. All right. Let me just do that. There we go. So the old language, basically we took the old policy and added new language to include authority for the executive director to spend out of the reserve funds up to $10,000 with approval from 2 officers. This came from the conversations we had about the resolution separate from a policy, but it made sense to add it to the policy because there's already a mechanism in the policy for spending. So basically all we're doing is adding this language here. I'll zoom in so we can read it. So the new language starts right about here. So the executive director and 2 officers must approve expenses utilizing reserve funds up to $10,000. And then a majority of board of directors must approve any expenses utilizing reserve funds over $10,000. So essentially that is the only change to the policy. There's some mild rewording going on, but I will leave it on the floor for people to ask questions, discuss.
Can you scroll up a little bit?
Would it be possible for you to scroll a little bit so we can read new language? We're cut off on my end right at new language is all we can see on the new section.
You can't see it.
No, just scroll down,
Oh, I'm
Jeff.
sorry.
There
I'm
you
on the
go.
I shared the wrong screen. I apologize.
No, there you go. No, we got it.
So open it up for questions. It's not an extensive language, so.
And
Anybody have any-
like Patty said, I mean, you guys can think about it.
Take it back, talk to your county or email your county to get feedback. If you feel the need to, it's just a lay the question on the table motion would require.
I
We
would
can vote on it next month.
just ask if this is just pertaining, and I'm just reading it now with my bad glasses, but is it just all about the reserves for this, or is it just cash wise, just amounts no matter what account, I guess is my vague question.
No, so the VAST staff still has the ability to spend per the budgets. This is specifically related to the reserve accounts.
Okay.
The approved budget. So once the membership approves the budget, they can spend within that budget.
Yeah.
This is, yeah. Any other questions?
There is a question from Dustin. Go ahead, Dustin.
Okay.
Hey, so is this $10,000 like per incident, or is this like I don't know what the words are. Is this like 10,000 per thing, or is
Yeah.
this like all together up to $10,000 before it comes to the board?
The intention is that it's per thing. So like if Matt needs, $10,000 to help a club out with trail equipment, or we have something going on with the roof at the office or heating systems or something. It's not 10,000 a year, it's 10,000 per instance. But yeah.
Does that answer your question, Dustin?
Yep, that answers
Yeah.
my question.
It definitely add
Right.
to checks and balances. I think we all talked about this and we know that we're in good hands right now, but someday someone's going to retire on us, and we never know who's going to be in the position. So it just builds in a little bit of checks and balances, and I'm pleased with it for sure.
Cindy and Stephen, and I just had one quick question. I see, Mike, you have your hand up. There was a reason we didn't just go with the 3 officers? You just
I
went
think it
half?
was
I
just
mean, what was
for ease of contacting 2 officers. So I mean,
Okay.
I'm open to changing it to 3,
Oh,
but
no,
I
I
think
just
it
was
was,
curious if there was a reason behind it. That's why I asked if there was.
It was more just what Steve said. It was just an easier to contact too.
I would assume it'd be an emergency for somebody to need the funds that quickly. So it could be there's a power unit out in the woods with a broken track, and we need to get that approved. I don't have a specific scenario for you, but something to that effect.
Yeah.
Okay, Mike, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, how many POs or orders are we talking about in a year? I mean, we're talking about 5 or are we talking about 50?
We're talking about 2 or 3.
Okay. Kind of what I figured. I mean, I kind of think starting at 0 may be a little too tight. But I mean, I'm game for it. It's not that much, but I mean, 2,500 to 5,000. I mean, if it's not that many, if it's only 2 or 3 or so, it's no big deal.
I also
I'd be open to starting it at, letting the executive director approve up to 2,500 or even 5 before having to get secondary approval.
I don't know, it's pretty easy to get a hold of officers. I think they're talking most of the time anyway, so it's.
Yeah.
You know.
And I mean, I
Just
see what you're
reserve.
saying, but I would start with, I mean, we have a $4 million budget. So 10 grand is not a huge amount. And I'm an ask permission, not forgiveness kind of person anyway. But again, I won't be always in the seat. So I would say just let's see how it goes. And
We're not talking about that many orders. It's not a big deal.
yeah.
We're talking about, I think we used before was a boiler. The boiler went on Cindy in the office and
Right, like the
all of a
basement
sudden we're
flooded
getting
and
down
we
the
had to deal
barrel.
with it ASAP. Yeah.
Essex County will make a motion to accept the new language as presented.
As presented.
Washington County will second.
Wait a minute. I've got Essex, and who's second?
Chittenden.
Okay, any other conversation? And this is in the VAST policy, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? All those in favor? Oh, Ivor, you have a question.
Yeah,
Let's see.
yeah, no matter what instance it is, it would still get discussed at a board meeting, correct? After
Yes.
the fact.
Yeah.
that
Oh,
was
for
the point I
sure.
was trying to
Right.
bring up is
Yeah.
that any spending out of the reserve accounts, we are already reporting at every board meeting. So there'll be complete open reporting on any spending from reserve accounts. Yes.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
if we have an emergency, like for sure, like in advance, we would come to you and say, look, we need more money for trail maintenance or more money for equipment. But if it's an emergency for the building, then it might be after especially like I'm thinking like usually things go like on a holiday weekend or, so it might be after, but in general, it'll be in advance that you would know.
And that's kind of why I was thinking that, up in the single sign-on limit to 2,500 to 5,000. So if something comes up, you can deal with it without having to worry about finding anybody. But if you think you can find somebody, it's fine.
Well, she also has in the budget items to cover the
Yeah.
smaller stuff that's
True.
approved that she has access to all the time. So we have
Doesn't constitute an emergency unless it's over 5,000, really.
no. Yeah, I mean, she's like she said, she's got a $4 million budget that she's working with, and most of that stuff's in there somewhere.
Yeah, I'm not going to be like, oh, we need to replace light bulbs. We'll take it out of reserves.
So we have a motion to update the VAST policy with the new language as presented, first by Essex, second by Chittenden. Any other comments, questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. All right, we don't have to put that on. Just wanted to give you the option. All right. Cindy, Matt's not there, so Map Gears app, any updates on the Map Gears app?
No, so we're tabling this. We got a lot of information at Congress. Map Gears was there, other GPS folks were there. and we also have been talking about the paper map. So I'm just going to say, keep those in a holding pattern. We will be talking about those a lot more as staff in the next couple of weeks. But we had a lot of great conversations with other states and provinces about what they use, what works, what doesn't work. So we're compiling all that data. It's hard because Congress just ended last week and we are all kind of decompressing from it, and it will take a bit to get our notes together. Patty got us started on a PowerPoint presentation, but we're going to show you that in July. But it's so it was a very good meeting, and we came back with a lot of great information and people's insights into that. And what
Matt
was
has
that
stuff in
other?
his report.
I don't know if is Roger on that other company, but they just joined IASA.
Trails Intel was there too.
Yeah, there was another one that just joined IASA that was there, a GPS mapping company. But anyway, so more to come on that. We're not doing anything until we come to everybody and discuss it and make a plan. But just so you know, we got a lot of great feedback from others, and we just need to meet as a group.
That's number 3 and 4. So yeah, we talked about a pilot, and you'll see if you look in Matt's report, he gets into more of the specifics of the different companies he spoke to as well. So it's in Matt's report too.
Yeah.
All right. So those 3 and 4. So more to come on that. And like the city said, they were there and they were front and center. So we had a great opportunity to talk with individually with them, which was great.
If I might ask, I mean, what's your all input? I mean, are you excited about other options? Are we still, it seems like we were kind of looking down the barrel of doldrum and no bright side to this.
Well, there's some good options out there.
No,
We just
there's
gotta
some
figure out who
good,
meets
like,
our needs.
Yeah, we're talking about like maybe testing a bunch of GPS units in individual groomers, like having 3, in individual groomers so we can see what works and what doesn't work. We're talking about mapping options and what kind of paper to use, and can map gears just transpose our current map into a paper map so we don't have to recreate it with another resource. Changing paper options. We're looking at the app and whether that's more viable for us. So we want to do a lot of testing, but we don't want to give you the results we don't have it compiled. Like as a group, the way Congress works, we're all in different meetings. So myself and Matt were in IASA, the trails administrators from Canada and the US, and Mark was in certain meetings and Patty was in certain meetings with different groups, and we are all kind of asking the same question. So we need to kind of get together as a group and go through all of our notes.
Just wonder if it looks brighter or not. That's all.
Well, technology keeps improving, which is really good news. But it's just, the story of like, well, maybe you have too many trees in Vermont. I mean, I think that the takeaway on the GPS units so far is that the biggest problem we might see is that we care more about where things track, or snap to where the actual trail is than some other folks. And we also pay by the mile versus the hour, which many jurisdictions pay by the hour on the machine and not by the mile. And so, so we're not looking at changing that. We're just looking at like, how can we continue what we're doing in a better way? Or if we do change it, how would that affect all of our clubs? Yeah.
So we'll be talking about pilots. Again, I'm going to reiterate, you guys are going to have to do some sort of paper logs this year, whether there's a form or something like that. Just make sure your clubs are aware of that is going to be a requirement this year in whatever format comes out by the time the season starts. Stan has his hand up.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to reiterate, that we had this discussion at our county level, and we had a lot of the groomer operators there, and none of them were too shook up about having to do paper logs. They would rather, put the work in to do the paper logs to make sure that we had accurate information for grooming and not rush into something else. And the other part and you just said it, Cindy, is, we discussed the idea of if we were going to truly get a good comparative evaluation of 2 or 3 or 4 different systems, that it would be best if we put them across the state and put them in the same unit. So if, one machine had 3 different systems working at the same time, we would be able to get a true evaluation of how well they run or work side by side with one another. And by spreading it around the state, we'd see if there was, blind spots in the state, or, or for whatever reason, something worked in one area and didn't in another. So it sounds like you've already been on top of that.
We've had that conversation, and so we're gonna flush all that stuff out before we do the pilot, and we'll share all the details with you guys when we're getting ready to do that before the season starts. Okay. Mandy, construction training readout.
Okay, so for the spring construction course, just see here, we had, sorry, let me, my other screen just froze, so let me just pull it up right here. We had 4 counties that all of the clubs within that county successfully completed the course, so that's great. Just want to say thank you to everybody on that end. We also had totaling 100 people who successfully completed the course, and a total of 27 clubs did not complete the course. And just as a reminder, the chainsaw course is still open and will remain open until September 1st. And for those folks who took the spring construction course, it's the same website, same login and everything. You just go up to my courses, and that's where the chainsaw courses. If anybody has any questions on how to log in or access that, just feel free to reach out to me.
I just want to say thank you to Mandy for all the communication that was sent out to all the counties regularly. Everybody definitely should have known what was going on, that's for sure, right? So thank you. It was nice and detailed. I really like the fact that you also captured questions. So if you didn't hit that area yet and you did, it was already in your email as from somebody else. So that was nice to have as a summary. Any questions for Mandy regarding the construction training? All right. Good job, Mandy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mandy, you're up again. Clothing.
Lee and I connected earlier this summer. Our plan is to connect with 1 or 2 of the vendors for a Zoom meeting to take place sometime mid to late summer, I believe.
Yes. He's a busy guy this summer. All right. Thank you. More to come on that. Cindy, I don't know where Beth is with that query stuff on that promotional weekend, if she's still
No.
developing it. Okay. She
We're not
talked
there
about
yet.
that at the summit, really trying to narrow down those details in that query to give us what we're looking for.
It's
But if she needs any-
it's complicated, but
it's complicated. So if she needs any points of clarification, she, bring it forward. Beth, I don't know if that's on or not, but feel free to bring it forward to the board if
Thank
that's
you.
the need. Mark, summit
All right,
readout and next
Summit
steps.
readout. I sent out today the spreadsheet to the Long Range Planning Committee to review, with eyeing to have a meeting either later this summer or early in September. The spreadsheet contains not just the suggestions from the summit, but also suggestions that Patty had picked up during your county meetings. We thought it was a good idea to combine those because there could be some actions that we want to review and work on from there as well. So it wasn't limited to just the summit. So I've asked again, I did this just before this meeting. I've asked the committee to review the spreadsheet, look it over, and come prepared when we schedule a meeting to discuss what we're going to be working on going forward. So I apologize that, now we're a month on from the summit. I've been crazy busy at work and I'm just now getting to it, but I did want to let people know that I did get that out. So thank you.
I appreciate it. How many, do you remember? It was like almost a dozen, right? Things that came out of that summit? I think close to that.
There were more than that. Let me open it up.
I know total we're in big numbers, like 50, almost 40, 50 combined between the 2 action items and I divided the county ones out by assigned committees. So that all the committee chairs should have theirs. Before the summit,
Okay,
the
summit suggestions. We have.
I'm sorry, I called you like that, Mark.
No, 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 no. We had, almost 20.
Came out of the summit breakout sessions, okay. So that's gotta be up to 50 items on that spreadsheet, so, all right, so
52 items on the spreadsheet.
52 total. So once we get the long range committee does their piece, we'll combine them and we'll put it, the whole list in the board packet, so everybody has a compiled list of that as well. Once we figure out, which groups get that, of the stuff that hit the long range.
Yep, and Patty's done a good job on the county meeting stuff to have gone through it, signed, and sort of checked where it is, so that will be on there already. And once the long range committee looks at stuff and decides what to work on, where to assign it, we'll get that in there and we'll get it out to the board.
Okay. Any questions for Mark on the summit, action items? It's great feedback from everybody. Some of the stuff is really good. I know I looked it over, so thank you for actually in your breakout sessions coming up with stuff too. That's important. Okay. Cindy, paper maps, you were kind of mentioning, there you are, mentioning it. Where are we with that? Do we have to vote on that at this point? Because you said the timeline was tight. Are we just moving ahead with it?
It is tight, but we're still working on getting quotes and stuff like that and the capability of map gears. So we're gonna wait on that a little bit. If we need a email vote, we'll do that. I think everybody's pretty clear on where people stand, but hopefully we can just get it done by July, because if we go with map gears, it's not going to be as long as a process as it has been in the past, because we won't have to recreate everything.
All right, that's the best, is to get the high resolution extraction out of what we've all been
Yeah.
updating, right? And providing
Yeah.
updates to Matt
Yeah.
and Mandy all year.
Yeah,
The work's already been done.
right.
All right, any questions for Cindy on the paper maps? Or are we just gonna wait until we see that? As long as Cindy, it's really the staff that's the bigger component of that, the impact if we're doing it. So if you're all right waiting until July, that's, that's management within your
Yeah.
realm. Anybody
Yep.
have questions for her? Okay, keep it there. The East Club, just Mike, Rutland County brought it up at the last summit meeting, when we were in our board meeting portion of that day. Just wanted to let everybody know that Cindy and I did meet, and we did respond back on June 1st to the club, as well as Mike, the director, and we decided that we were going to follow the policy, and since the policy was not followed, that we're not going to make any additional payments for the East Club, and we directed them, if they wanted to take it any further, they would go to step 3 in the resolution of the dispute process. So that's where that stands, just as a follow-up to everybody, so that they're aware, it's back in the club's hands if they so choose to do that. And we have Mike.
Yeah,
Mike.
Patty, I saw that. I didn't respond to it. I haven't talked to Ed yet either. He's obviously got it.
Okay, yep, he was on there.
What do you guys recommend? What should I do with these guys? What should we do?
Well, it's a minimal amount. I don't know if they want to go to step 3, if they go to step, right. It's a minimal amount that's owed to them. It's not a big dollar figure, it's just for everybody here.
I don't think
It's
that's
up to them if they want to fight for that dollar figure or not. I will tell you that there were 3 clubs that did not complete the analysis, and the executive board is meeting in 2 weeks to discuss next steps, because technically those clubs are out of compliance, and that would come to you guys ultimately if we decide as a board what we're going to do there or not. You would decide whether it impacts startup payments, DMA sales. You remember there's all the ands, ors that we put together. So the board of directors would make that determination at that time. So they'll be in that grouping at that time. They're one of the 3. And Matt's report had all 3 of them. So you all have access to that data as well. So again, we're meeting as an executive committee in 2 weeks. So we'll be discussing that. And if it moves forward, we'll be bringing it to the board for whatever their decision. And I will say, Mike, even though they said that they're turning things around, they still didn't even do the construction training after the fact, and that was a next requirement. So you may want to just touch base with them on that. They're challenging this, but then they missed the next requirement. So just, okay.
I understand completely.
Okay, just, you want to, when you have that discussion with them, you may want to highlight that.
Okay, I'll wait to hear from the executive committee.
Okay. And we'll let the board know on all that stuff. So I just wanted everybody, since Mike brought it up at a board meeting, to know that we did meet and we did follow up, and that is in this next step is with the club if they so choose. All right, new business. Matt had, I'm assuming John Hall, are you gonna take this for Matt on Matt's behalf? You had three requests for contract grooming changes that passed through the Trails Committee. I'm getting that straight. And now you're bringing it to the board. And there you go, Mr. Hall.
All right, first up, we have you want me to go through all three of them and then, or do you vote on each one separately?
You can do however you feel comfortable. You could do them, you could do,
Yeah,
however you
I'm trying to
want.
think, because we want to give people a chance to listen to each one and decide on them. However, it might be easier just to go through them and say, have someone make like we do other things, a motion to approve all three. I think we can go through them and then let whoever makes a motion decide how they want to do it, right?
Yeah,
Yes, whoever makes the motion can make it for one or all three at that point. I think that's a great way. So why don't you present all three first? I think that's great. Thank you, Mark. You're good with that, John?
Yep. So the the Trails Committee reviewed all these and approved them to bring them to you folks to vote on. They all seem pretty reasonable. The Buckaroos of 302 would like to construct 6 miles of new trail out of Groton State Forest to the railroad bed in Plainfield. The trail would connect 2 roads with 1.7 miles of excavating work and would require a bridge. The trail would go from the state land down to a big parcel owned by forest farmers. The plan would be to talk with the owners of the sugaring operation by the railroad bed and then connect to the bed. Estimated cost is $14,000 to $15,000 to build it. It adds 6 miles to the existing 55-mile system under the Class 1 contract. And the total cost to VAST in grooming this new trail would be $4,999. This would also help connect Central Vermont over to Groton in a high elevation area, which I think we're all looking for good trails in high elevation. The second one is Ludlow Side Hill Cronchers. Upgrade 2.5 miles of secondary trail to Class 1 and add it to the grooming contract. Widen 2.5 miles of existing secondary trail to accommodate Class 1 grooming. This would be added to the existing 28-mile Class 1 contract. The total cost of VAST to groom this new section would be $1,986. The Grafting Outing Club wants to upgrade Class 2 grooming contract to a Class 1. Update existing 35-mile Class 2 grooming contract to Class 1. The total cost of VAST for this would be $5,277. And the club currently has a 2015 Tucker that they use to groom the trails.
So Grafton is already out doing Class 1, so they just want their contract to be updated to reflect that they're grooming with a Class 1, right? Keep me straight, John. Ivor's shaking his head yes. Ludlow is going to services, gas, and food. And Buckaroos is in anticipation of this because they still have to obtain landowner permission. Those were my notes. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. Doug, you're up first.
Hey, thanks, buddy. Hey, John, I just had a question on that first one. You spoke about how much it costs to groom it, the additional 4,900 or whatever it was, but you said it was 14,000. Is that correct that they were asking for?
That's what they estimate to 14 to 15 to build the new update the road and
Yeah,
Well, it's an old road now and it just would all have to be updated.
and they're asking for that whole amount. That's what they're looking for. That's
Yeah,
what,
this
Patient of
wasn't
it.
a construction grant. This was,
Right.
that's separate if they do decide to do that.
They're
Right,
just
and
looking,
if they get permissions, right.
they're looking for permission to add this to their contract, then they would go for the construction grant.
oh, okay, all right, yep, yep, sure, thanks.
And that includes a bridge too, right, John?
Yes.
Correct.
Mentioned a bridge. I can tell you I ride in that area. You know, I've ridden in that area quite a bit and gets a lot of traffic and any kind of high elevation because there's some swampy stuff when you come out of the rail bed on the northern end. So this would really, I think, help.
This would
This
help.
Is the side hill crunchers, is that high elevation too? I just heard high
Yeah.
elevation mentioned in the first one and not the second.
Yeah, we talked about that there's plenty of snow there and there's no gas in the area, so
Mm.
the fact
That's
that they're selling
important.
gas was the big pull there.
Yeah.
And the money, the grooming cost, John, is at their cap if they were to meet cap.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yes,
No, I just want to make sure everybody understood that, and I'm correct, right?
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Halpin?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I missed that meeting on the trail committee, and I just wanted to bring something up that I'm totally for the new trails, but we kind of had with the spending freeze on new trail freeze, I just want to bring up that we had a new trail added on the Northfield Club, in the Berry Club, and we wouldn't assist them in building for the cost of building the new trail, but we okayed the grooming. And then after it was a new trail for a year, then they could put in for a grant. And I think that it would be improper for us to change the rules when we made those clubs go through that. I'm not opposed to new trails. I think all those are in great areas. I just think that the clubs maybe need to get those new ones done financially on their own. Us as a board maybe okay the grooming change, and then in a year or so they can come back for grants. That's my feeling on it, just because that's kind of the precedence we set back on projects in the past on new trails here, pretty
And
much
that's what we're
since
doing, Jeff.
COVID.
We
Yeah,
are doing that tonight. This is just strictly for the grooming contract additions. It's not for grant approvals. Correct, John?
understood, but just so that maybe they understand that they wouldn't be okayed for grants in the first year.
It may not be, right, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it also, just to add a historic perspective, is that some trails were multi-use. And I don't know, was that Northfield and the Berry Trail? Was that the one that goes up to the tower? Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
but
that's a multi-use, like a community trail as well. So that might have been, it's part of the thinking. I don't know. I'm just saying, it might have been.
that was 100% done by the clubs, and
Yeah,
with some
it was.
donations, and Mark's familiar with it.
Yeah,
But I
and
just feel
I
like
don't-
we set a precedence there.
A couple of things. They're already past, or will soon be past the deadline for submitting construction grants on this. And I don't believe Matt had construction grants for any of these. So it'll be a while before. And this specifically was to add it to the grooming contract and that we would accept it as a trail.
And the Buckaroos is the only one that's got a contract that will come in for construction requests in the future. And I would say that
The
they
other ones
still
are
have
going from
landowner
class-
permissions to get.
going
They
up to
have
class
landowner
one.
permissions and stuff, so they're nowhere ready to start construction.
When they
They're
go
just-
from, when they increase to class one, we have to make sure that we understand too, that we're already paying for whatever class 3 or class 2. I don't know what they're doing, but there's that we subtract from that number. So it's not that whole number that John mentioned about an increase on class 1 grooming increase. I want to make sure that that number is true, and it also is subtracted from what we've paid them in the past from their grooming on the class that they've done.
That would be Grafton. Is the only one with class can change. Are there any other questions for any of us, right, John? Does anybody want to make a motion on all three, on one, on two, or
Lamoille,
looking for a motion? Lamoille, what are you
Lamoille
doing?
will make a motion to accept, or however you need to word it, to go through with
approve?
all three of these. these are all
Approve.
necessary things that need to happen. We need to be able to grow the sport. We need to grow the trails, and we need to get more access to stuff. So Lamoille makes the motion.
To approve the Trails Committee request for the 3 clubs to add additional mileage to their grooming contract.
Correct.
County will second.
All right. Who was that? Franklin?
Rutland.
Rutland? So we had Lamoille and then Rutland. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries. Good on that one. The paper goes down there. All right. Cindy, you're up. The budget. You're on mute if you're talking.
There we go. Sorry, I had muted myself. All right, sharing my screen. Can you guys see the beach I'd like to go to?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. All right. Okay, so I made a few changes from the one I sent you, so I'm going to resend it. I did not make any changes to the suggested budget or any changes to year-to-date or the FY25 budget. What I did was I added in the end of the year projected that I had been sharing before because you're used to seeing it, and I just felt like you would want to see it again. So, but before I dive into that, I thought I would share with you, the Finance Committee has met about this, and we plan on continuing to meet about it. But basically, Stephen, I'm going to have you describe why we merged the checking accounts from your financial background, but we have merged the checking accounts to streamline accounts payable. We used to have a checking account for trails, a checking account for the administration, and a checking account for trail projects. We had all these different accounts. By merging checking accounts and preserving individual line items, incomes and expenses, which is what we've done. So we have not changed any line item, income, account numbers, or exporting. The Finance Committee provides an attached balance budget that should be easier to read and understand. Steve, did you want to talk about why we merged the checking accounts?
It was exactly as you mentioned. It was just to relieve some administrative burdens. We have a budget we follow for the individual funds, and really those different checking accounts were there wasn't any real balance behind them. They were just being used to transfer the funds for the years. The reserve accounts that we have are the actual fund balances for the different reserves we have, and there's no need to carry those different bank accounts for that reason.
Okay. And then other things that we've done recently too is we've combined some things to sweep, and so we're actually we have better coverage for our funds now, thanks to the Finance Committee and their financial background. So so just so folks know, when you're looking at the TMA income, how it used to look like for the Trails Fund and the General Fund, those account numbers were all the same. It just showed in a different place, but the account numbers have not changed. We moved the old encumbered trails account to actual line items for income and expenses. So reason we did that is every year at the end of the budget year, we take $450,000 out of the income from that year to use for trails.
That's what you said, they're ready to go.
And to get away from, we've been doing that to supplement trails since before I started, long time ago. And we feel like we're getting into a better place where we're not going to have to do that anymore. We can't completely get rid of it, but we can show, and I'll show it now. Let me show you it on here. So for instance, in the past, if you look down where trails spending is, all of these accounts here, trails construction was TMA increase and encumbered. Trails maintenance was TMA increase and encumbered. All this money, which adds up to 450,000 or 400,000, was moved out below the budget itself, but it was actually utilized from income from the TMAs. And these account numbers existed. These account numbers were ones that we've always used. We just haven't showed you because they were in the trails encumbered. So now we're showing them to you. So you're actually seeing them. So it's really streamlining everything. And so if we go back up to the top of the budget, some things to show you is this here, 5,400, 215. This is that $5 and $10 amount, the TMA increase that was voted by the board. And so this is how much came in, and this is how much is budgeted to come in for that. That goes directly into trail expenses. And then there's also, this is instead of the 258 plus 450, the difference between the 450 is the 191, 175 to make up the difference. And this is how much we've been able to reduce that 450. So I ran calculations to see what was the all expenses that were going into the admin, all expenses into trails from TMA income, and I deducted it. I deducted that 450,000 from that number. So these calculations are based on, actually I can just show you here. So this one is basically this number for admin divided by the total of VAST income minus the 450,000. This number is dedicated funds that go into the trails fund from the total TMA income.
How come it's not 100%? 113 something?
11406. Oh, sure. You see here. 820, 820, and 21.
You can, when you send it out, you can.
Yeah, I'll fix it. But it's not like, it's not way off from what we did before. It's just explaining it a lot better because now all the numbers are in the budget. So you're seeing the income and you're seeing the expenses. And all these line items over here have not changed. So most of these are administrative line items, and then you have the trails related line items, but none of those have been changed. The only changes were these here that we put in. So they're not coming out after just blindly under here. It used to be an extraordinary expense. And the finance committee was like, really, that's not an extraordinary expense. Like that should be part of the budget, and getting away from just blindly taking $450,000 out of the checking account every year to go towards trails. It was used before as a safety net. Stephen, am I describing this well?
Yeah, actually, I was about to raise my hand to give a little better explanation. So
Thank you.
rather than just transferring money to the trails account at year end from prior year operations, we're giving the trails account a budget. So we're saying this is how much you have to spend instead of pulling money from the prior year and saying, well, this is how much is left over, so you can have this. So this is to give Matt the authority to purchase with the budgeted funds instead of trying to move things around from reserve accounts at year end.
And originally that 400K was because we were doing paper TMAs and weren't getting the money until postseason. Now we're doing online TMA, so you can front end it versus back ending it. So operationally now it makes sense.
That's right. So I did add in the end of year projections. So for where we are now, which is in the pink year to date, versus where I think we're going to end the year. This is all the income, total income. And this is what budgeting for next year's income. And some of the biggest change here is the Green Mountain National Forest. There's a big difference in what we think we're going to have for projects for the Green Mountain National Forest next year. And so that really, that does skew it, and I'll show it to you right here. So this year we had budgeted 815,000. Year to date, we've spent 317,000. This is income and expenses. And then end of the year projection, we're still leaving it 815, but next year we're only projecting 542,000 coming in and going out. So it kind of skews the numbers. It makes you think that we're off somewhere, but it's really, that's the biggest outlier. There are staff salary increases in here. There's, other increases, there's benefits, there's office expenses and things like electricity and fuel and things like that that go up every year. Oh, and just so everyone knows, the TMAs, we base the budget on income for TMAs from the budget from last year, not the actuals, because last year was a really good snow year. And we didn't want to bank on that we were going to have a really good snow year this coming year. We wanted to be more prudent. And so the income is based on the 25 budget, which was based on the income from the previous year.
Cindy, the increase in income around, what was it, 400K? Isn't that just now having that trails special reserve money in the front end?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. The way that this is now, it's just much easier to understand and much easier to see. It just takes a little bit of time to kind of get used to it all. But like I said, none of the account numbers have changed, except we're showing you the encumbered, what used to be the encumbered trails money, because these have always been their account numbers.
Personally, I hated that encumbered thing, so I'm glad.
Me too. It was always confusing and hard to describe. So
But
the other thing,
operationally, it was good at the time that it was done because the way the money flowed.
yeah. The only one we have to do separate is the scholarship budget. I did toss that in this morning. So again, I will email this out to you guys. I'm not looking for a vote right now. We just want any feedback to come back to the finance committee so we can get it to you. So you have it for a couple of weeks. The way it rolls out is you will need to vote on this at the July board meeting. It does need to go in early August. It needs to be posted in the annual report because the membership needs 30 days. So we've got some time. So if people will take a look at it and email questions, we can do a reply all so people know what others' questions are. And like I said, I did add the scholarship one in here just because it is a separate budget. We can't combine that because it's a separate thing in policy bylaws.
And the money was donated with specific terms.
So I'm going to email this out to you as well as, oops, that's not what I wanted. I did not want to open my email. Because then my phone, my computer will start pinging with new emails. I just included some additional information from the original document or email I had sent you, and I will.
So any questions this month, take full advantage of getting that over. You can reply to all, just like we did last year. We all shared the Q&A and the finance committee will look it over. July, they'll come in with maybe some edits to it based on input and conversations. And we have to vote on it at that board meeting. So this city's going to set out the new version. If you have any questions, or it's the time to talk it over with your counties and be prepared to vote on it next month. Any questions?
Mike Stewart's
Mike.
got his hand up.
Yeah, I got a question for Cindy. Cindy, we pretty much leveled the 25 and 26 budget on TMAs for early bird, in-state, out-of-state, blah, blah, blah. And I see that the online TMA credit card fees were $10,000 over what we projected, but we pretty much leveled that too. What are you thinking there?
It's because we sold more TMAs, so there's more credit card fees.
I know. So what are you thinking we're not going to sell as many again this year?
Yeah, well, we base the budget on the year before because we don't know. So we base the budget on what we did the year before. If we sell more, that's a great story to tell. Then we have more to pay for that overage. But I didn't want to skew. I didn't want to go back to the TMA income from the year before last and not adjust and not keep the other true as well. The expense line. Am I explaining that okay?
Yeah, it's only $10,000. I was just wondering why we didn't bump that up. My next question is, I was just looking at the travel.
Yeah.
We were way under budget on travel. But we kept, we pretty much leveled that budget too. Are we planning on traveling more this year?
We don't know. It just depends on the snow because the travel expenses, Mike, is not just for like travel to trade shows. That takes place in trade shows.
Right.
Or Congress. It's if we have really good snow and we're all scattering across the state to go to club events and stuff. So it's more of just a placeholder.
Gotcha. And I like that you leveled the budget for trade shows and events. Need to do more of that, I guess, probably, huh?
It's great. I'll tell you the takeaway from Congress, it's snow that makes a difference. I mean, we do a great job and we are so at the top of our game compared to so many other provinces and states. It's really impressive, but doesn't mean that we take our foot off the gas pedal and we're not planning on doing that. So these are just placeholders, that's all.
Gotcha. I like the optimism.
Yeah, it feels good. We got a good team. Everybody.
Everybody good on, expectation is that you'll know how you want to vote next month, and Cindy will send out a current copy tomorrow or tonight or whatever.
And guys, I'm very happy to sit down with you individually or Zoom with you to go over any of this or answer any questions at any time. So don't ever feel awkward. It's a lot to know and a lot to digest. And so don't feel awkward about asking questions and stuff. Yeah.
Any other questions for Cindy and or Stephen on the budget? I know it takes me, I haven't even gotten through it all myself, so take some time to go through it, and I'm glad you added in that extra column, so thank you. We good? Next month we vote. Got it? Get that wink? There we go. Thanks, Cindy. Congress feedback, Cindy mentioned it earlier. I did put together a short PowerPoint. I'm looking for feedback from the folks that attended, and I will go over that with folks very quickly at a high level next board meeting, just so you know what goes on up there, what some of the states have done, some of the takeaways that we did. But to Cindy's point, in many ways, we are advanced, but we did pick up some stuff that would be of value to review with everybody. So we'll go over that next month's meeting. And now we're up to Julianne, and Julianne's going to do an operational readout on the where she is with the ED evaluation process. And then next month we will do an executive session to go through the feedback and discuss any other action items. So Julianne?
Okay, so the evaluation has been done and completed, so we're all set with that. We received 11 surveys back to base the evaluation on. And in July, we're going to meet in person so that we'll be able to have an executive session to discuss any of the content of the evaluation that anybody feels the need to discuss. If anybody wants to ask any operational questions about the evaluation, I'm more than happy to answer them. And prior to the meeting in July, I'll provide you with a summary that the committee put together. In that summary, it will give you the scoring, pros, cons, a screenshot of the calculations and how we came to the totals, and also all of Cindy's accomplishments that she provided earlier on. So you will get that, but not until we in preparation of the July board meeting. So again, tonight, if anybody has any feedback or any questions around the actual process, I'm more than happy to discuss. Anything else will be held for the executive session because the evaluation shouldn't be on a public platform and recorded. So does anybody have any process questions?
Mr. Halpin, process only. Go ahead.
I think it's process.
I'll shut you off.
No, I'm actually thought that it was pretty cool. I think my question, I guess, and tell me if I'm out of line, but the scoring, is that a process question?
Yeah.
Okay. I felt like there's a big gap between your 5s, your 4s, and then you're going right down to 2s. And I felt like maybe we're without more choices, we're getting shortchanged a little bit because you're going down to a 2. So there's a big gap there, and I don't know if you can picture what I'm saying at all, Julianne, but
Yeah,
you know,
I
between
can, and
your
it's
great score of 5, and then you got a 4, and then you got a 2. And so I'm just wondering.
it's 0 to 5. It's 0 to 5. 0 to
Somebody
5.
else had mentioned that to me too, and it wasn't you,
The
Jeff.
way
It
it
was
was
another
worded,
county.
it just showed
0
a
to
2, a
10.
5, or a 5, a 4, and a 2, and a
Yeah.
0.
Stan raised his hand. He also brought that up to me. That
Okay.
maybe 0 to 10 would be, you have more flexibility in, so maybe the committee can look at that for next
Yeah,
year's scoring is
absolutely.
widening the range. Is that
Yeah.
what you're asking? Widening the
Well,
range?
yeah, I
there, Jeff?
just thought, you know, if we're doing on a scale of 1 to 5, that's great, but it almost looked the way it was worded, like you couldn't use a 3, I guess, you know, I don't know. It was, anyways, we got some information back, it sounds like, and
That's operational. That was good.
no,
Okay.
okay, thank you. That wasn't bad.
So Julianne, look at the scoring scale as a committee for next year.
That's what I'm writing right now.
Perfect. Anybody else have any operational or process questions?
Or feedback. We're open to all of the above. You know, we're always process of improvement. You know, we've brought it this far, which I think is better than it was the year before. And I mean the whole process about, you know, when we sent the email out, you know, if anybody had any questions that anything at all, any part of the process. Dustin,
Dustin?
has his hand up.
Yep.
Does the VAST staff get to do those evaluations also, or is that only for the directors?
Directors only at this time.
Thank you.
You are welcome.
Okay, so we will, in July, we will be meeting in person unless something changes. Executive committee will be, like I said, meeting in 2 weeks, so we'll firm that up. But, and then we will have an executive
And
session
officers.
breakout.
When I said directors only, but it's directors and officers.
Oh,
Sorry.
that's okay.
Okay.
And
And we
alternate
will have
directors, right? That may be at the meeting.
officer, well, Julianne will call the executive session, and we did talk about that earlier today, so that will be her responsibility and who she wants to be included in that executive session. So, we will do that in July. We'll break out and then we'll come back in if there's any action items that come out of that executive session, and we'll vote on it in a regular meeting, so it's recorded in minutes. Everybody clear on the process?
Yeah.
Excellent. I appreciate everybody's understanding. It was a pretty sensitive thing to me. I just wanted to make sure that all personnel stuff is done in executive session. So thank you, Julianne. And we got all the reports from the Cindy, Matt, and Randy. Everybody should have received that in their packet. Cindy does get into, in her report, a little bit, some really good detail actually on, the Congress. So if you want to look that over, law enforcement stuff, I know a lot of folks have asked about that. She's got that in her report that she's planning on July for that. And she's also requesting when she can approach changing the fine levels. I know that's another one. She's waiting for an update and when she can approach that topic. And this, she has the club review, Cindy. Next month, we'll put on the agenda to pull the 4 new clubs. Yes? Okay. So make sure that's captured. Mandy has a, I think June 27th is the next e-news. She's got I know this came up recently. I don't even remember who asked about the results of some of the social media stuff. She's got all that in her report. So I know folks have asked about that. So take a look at that. And she also has the details on the spring construction and in there, the things I pulled out. Matt has the information on the grooming payments and what he paid out. And what he's currently looking, he's got 12. He's looking to fund 12 of the 23 grants for construction. No, I mean for equipment. So he's dealing with $226,000 only. So there probably won't be some happy people. So you may want to prepare folks for that, but he's doing his best to spread the money as best he can. And then I have stars on this one. Please remind clubs under construction and debrushing. Remind your clubs that any grants that were not completed last season need to be wrapped up this summer before fiscal year 25. You know, October 1st is our start of a new year, so it's through September. If projects are going to be canceled and resubmitted for fiscal year 26, they have to email Matt any of those specific projects in the details. So if they're not finished, they need to get a hold of Matt with the details. Any grants in fiscal year 25 that are not completed with all reimbursement paperwork submitted by September 1st will be considered canceled. So if you have any clubs with any pending stuff, this is on page 2 in Matt's report. Make sure that they follow up with Matt. And then June 30th is the deadline, another reminder for construction and debrushing grants. So it's a pretty powerful statement in there. Just make sure that that is obliged. So nobody's surprised. Any questions? Matt, Doug, you're not on mute, just so you know. We keep hearing you whisper.
We can't hear what you're saying, but we can hear you whisper.
There's nobody in here but me.
Oh, well,
I'll turn
that's
off-
scary.
That is really scary.
Yeah, I'll put it on mute.
Anybody have any other questions or comments about any of those 3 reports?
I would just like to add that the legislature came back into session on the 16th while we were in Canada. So, and I was busy today, so I haven't had a chance. So I'll probably have some final legislative briefings for you soon. So
Excellent. I know you have all the other stuff in there and the legislative stuff, which is a good detail for us.
I do. I mean, I've been on top of it all. It's just that because we were gone, and they did go back into session last week. So I just need to catch up and look at videos, and I didn't have not any time today to do that. So I'll be doing that right off though to see how some of the bills ended up.
Anybody have any question about what's due to Matt in regards to any pending projects from last year? Are we all good? Silence is, what do they call that? What's the cliche for that?
Golden.
We're good. All right. Just making sure. Now we're going to go into committee stuff. Mark, you're up.
All right, RRG. Our next quarterly meeting is July 10th. I'll be sending out the meeting invite for that. I spoke to a couple of states peripherally around joining the RRG. There's interest, but there's no solid, hey, can we get you a check yet? What will come out of this is I'm going to be doing a presentation that I'm hoping can get on the agenda for next year. Sometimes this group is hard to read in terms of they don't send out a call for proposals for presentations like a normal trade show that you may go to in your work, but I think we can get it done.
You want to be one of the
and
breakout sessions.
we want to be one of the breakout sessions, right? So then I'll spend the next part of the year putting that together and going from whoever to try to work out the make it smooth by the time we get there. So
Excellent. Okay. Any questions from Mark? We're good. Northeast chapter, Jeff Fay's not on, and USA Me. Well, I will tell you, both Jeff and I were at Congress. Jeff covered the Northeast chapter. He was voted in again as Secretary Treasurer for the Northeast chapter, as well as the Vermont delegate still. And I presented just a quick summary. I actually used one of Matt's reports to provide an update to USA. Conservancy, Cindy, Jim's not on to you.
No, he's
new
not
there.
on. Yeah, we haven't
About
had a meeting.
Law enforcement.
No new updates. Well, I have a meeting with Fish and Wildlife coming in. They have, new leadership, as most of you know. Jenna has been promoted to major. So she's coming in with Randy Hazard, who's a warden who most of us know. He's a great warden, and he'll be taking over the snowmobile side of the warden service for us. And so they're coming in, I believe it's next week to meet.
Okay, so I'm sure we'll get an update in next month's report on that one. Is Amber with you, Ivor? There you go, Amber. Awards?
So the award committee, we went over all the nominations. I think it was a really good meeting. So that's all set. All the awards, trophies and plaques and everything are in the works. I know that the order's been placed and there's been a couple conversations back and forth on a couple of them, but I think that's getting resolved. And I think that's it on that part, besides the officers. If you plan on running again, please let me know as soon as you can. even if you're not. And I believe an e-news will be going out, is it next month?
Yeah, July.
In July, for anybody else that would be interested in running for office.
As well as this,
Correct.
as well as the write-ups of anybody seeking reelection. So that's why
Make sure-
Amber needs to know if you're running or not, so she, can be prepared to solicit a vacancy if that's needed.
The other thing too is, just as a reminder, for the annual report, we will need, committee reports and officer reports and staff reports, by, early August. We have to have it done 30 days prior to the meeting. So plan on doing that in July, late July. Beth is usually, she's always very good about sending out reminders, but just to give you a heads up, if you need to look at what you did last year or need a copy of the last couple of years of annual reports, well, last year's you can find on the website, but if you need anything, just let me know and we can send it over to you.
And that's all committee chairs, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And Amber, I sent you mine from last year, so you can just edit away.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, any questions for Amber on any of the award stuff? Okay, that meeting just took place, so all that stuff is in motion, so thank you, Amber. Mark, bylaws and policy?
We just passed the policy change for the finance committee. Nothing on the radar at this point.
I would like to add that, when I go into policy, because now I use Grammarly and AI and all that kind of stuff, there's a lot of like grammar things that need to be fixed on the traditional policy that we have. It's historic stuff. And so I don't want to make any changes because then it will be a save date and save as date. But I just wanted to give you a heads up that I'm pretty much jonesing to go in there and clean it up and, and then have it like reviewed by the bylaws policy committee. But it's just grammar basically and some spelling stuff that just needs to be cleaned up that hasn't been caught in decades.
Mark, you have several action items for bylaws and policy from the director meetings too.
Oh, thank you, Patty. I apologize for that. To
Oh,
review those because I hadn't
Yep.
done my.
That's
I'm
okay.
sorry.
Nope,
Yes.
so that you do have some stuff in the cooker, that's what I'm saying.
So the committee will have some stuff once I get my head out of underwater.
Okay. I know you have a few things on there. All right, where are you? Jen, annual meeting. Any updates? You're on mute if you're talking.
Hi.
There we go.
Not too much to update really. The only thing I have left to get a cost on is the volunteer t-shirts, and I have everything I need now to submit to the 802 print, so you can get that going. Hopefully I'll have that by next month, but I mean, we're still way under budget, so I'm not worried about that at all. We're gonna have a meeting, I think, we haven't decided yet, either next month or August, to kind of tie up any loose ends, but we have everything all set pretty much.
You're in good shape.
Yeah, we're in real good shape.
There you go. That's your report. We're in good
Yeah.
shape. All right, thanks. Any questions for Jen? Anybody has any clubs interested at the table, make sure they contact Jen too for that day. I know some people sell raffle tickets and things like that. Just let her
Or
know.
vendors or any other vendors.
All right, executive committee, we did not meet because we were away, some of us. So we did email communication in preparation of tonight's meeting and a few other things. And again, we're meeting in 2 weeks to go over a few other items that come up. Anything else, Julianne, personnel committee? All set? Steve, anything else on financial committee?
Nope, nothing else. I think we covered it all.
Long range? Anything else? I know you just said you
I-
sent the summary.
I sent the summary out, and I think that's where my head was, Patty, those suggestions on long range planning. So you guys should, on the committee should get that, look at it and let me know if you want to do a meeting in July or August or wait till September because I know vacations and stuff may make it hard to get together. Thanks.
Any questions for Mark? All right, we're just moving along. Resources isn't in play right now. Trails, anything else, John? Oh, you're on mute. There you go.
Other than working on the trails policy, and what I presented earlier, it was a good meeting, and hopefully the next meeting we'll be able to go through the policy and see if there's any changes that need to be made.
You have some action items too that came out of the director meetings, I think, for that committee to go through, which may or may not be policy things.
Yeah.
So, all right. Any questions for John? All right. Stan, safety? Thank you, John.
Yeah, we are on hiatus, but we are working on that, what 3-word sign. And I think there's a sample. We made a change in the color to a high vis green, and I think those samples are headed to the VAST office here in the next week or so. And I sent my report for the annual booklet to Beth last month, so she's got that. That's it.
Any questions for Stan? Stan, there was a lot of discussion about safety, so I will have in my little brief PowerPoint, you'll see some of that stuff that came out of Congress. A lot of conversation there. Anybody else for Stan? All right. Stan, Lee's away, so I think they're kind of on a hiatus, other than the fact that you've been seeing tons of stuff come from Mandy with updates to Facebook and Twitter. And again, the results of that is in her packet. So, all right. Any questions for Mandy then? I'll throw it on to Mandy if anybody has anything in regards to social media. All right. Mr. Poland, Governor's Council.
The Governor's Council did have its last meeting of the season on June 4th. The biggest thing that was accomplished was we did approve the SSTP budget for the FY26. So that's in place. FPR has all the information they need, and we'll be working with Matt and Sheila on that. Kind of a poorly attended meeting, only because law enforcement was really working on their boating issues. So that's about it, except that shortly after the meeting, I emailed Cindy and Patty and let them know that that was my last meeting, and I will be resigning as chair of the Governor's Council immediately.
We have tons of thank yous for Mr. Pullen for years of service and sharing that committee, right? Come on, everybody. Yeah.
You know, it's not just that, you know, Pat and, you know, just to give some historic knowledge, Pat and Jim Hill came back to this organization after a very tumultuous time. And, you know, they had washed their hands of VAST. And I, you know, just to dig up some dirty laundry here, but when I started, it was just a different place, and this board was a totally different board, and there was so much animosity going on, and just backstabbing, and it was just terrible. And Pat and Jim had really been treated badly, and I was told things about them, and I just didn't believe it, but I didn't know them. But then I sat on the Snow Trails Conservancy, which is a separate organization started by VAST, and I got to know Jim and Pat, and I begged them to come back. And it took a good year or two for me to get them to come back to this board. And their knowledge of this organization and their historic volunteerism here is unprecedented. And so, Pat, you are greatly loved by me and greatly loved by this organization. And we will miss you tremendously, and know that you'll never be that far away. Pat and I we're making lunch dates, you know, to go out. He rides his motorcycle down here and we go out to lunch, and Stars, when she can, joins us. You know, and Jim has been a huge help too, to Ruth and to all of us regarding the bylaws and policy and Robert's rules. And you guys just really came back at a time that this organization needed you. And so I just want you to know from the bottom of my heart how much you are appreciated And this time when you're leaving with your head held high and treated with the respect that you were due and are due. And you will always be part of this team. So we love you and
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. I'm always within reach, Mr. Pullen. You never really go away, you know.
Yeah, I know. You got my phone number.
Damn
Phone
right
number,
I do. You're on
email.
speed dial, my friend.
You're changing it, aren't you, Pat?
I just won't, you know, I've got you on ID, so I know it's you, so.
That's true. I know where your
And,
bird feeder is.
Yeah, that's true. Although the bear
Um,
may be after it before you get there.
Yeah, I'm not coming over when the bear's at the bird feeder. That's not happening. Anyway.
And then
Thank
Cindy,
you.
you'll be working on the replacement. So we'll share all that
Yeah,
information. once all that's
I
done.
have to go through the governor's office, and that Pat was kind enough to send me an email of questionnaires because they are always trying to, you know, find out which committees or councils they can get rid of with the state. And so every year we have to sort of, you know, explain to them how important we are, which is easy to do because we are. But the governor has many councils and committees. And so, you know, like over 100 of them. So
So
anyway.
once we have that cleared,
So
we'll make
yeah,
our
we'll be working on getting Pat's very large shoes filled before the council starts again in the fall.
Okay.
Be around if they need anything from me.
Of course. Thank you, Pat.
Is there any other business that we did not cover that somebody thought of that needs to bring it up? Just remember, all the deadlines are on the back of the agenda. Plus, we talked about the F-25 construction scenario out of Matt's report. So just make sure you add that. And June 30th, the date coming up, the trail maintenance grant apps and depression grant apps are both due. So that's highlighted on the back of the agenda. Those two dates are coming up pretty quick. If there's nothing else, what time is it? 7:27. I'll look for a motion to adjourn
When does the county make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
at 7:27. I need a second.
Lamoille.
Lamoille. Okay, everybody, thank you very much.